Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience here in Mississippi, WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, joining us are our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, as pandemic restrictions continue to be lifted around the country, more and more people are returning to their workplaces in some form or fashion. While the office may look the same, things are definitely feeling a little bit different. We're here today to talk to us about some great return to some office tips for employees and especially for working moms. We're excited to welcome Dr. Dana Sumpter to our program today. Dr. Sumpter is the Associate Professor of Organization Theory and Management at Pepperdine Business School. She's going to share with you guys some ways that you guys can feel a little bit more comfortable, but also where you can get some more information as well. Dr. Sumpter, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So, as I mentioned, people are returning back to the workplace. I know I've been more in person since last year. What are some of the challenges employees, especially working moms, though, Dr. Sumpter, face as they return to the office?
Yeah, definitely some challenges that, working moms and other kinds of caregivers continue to experience these days. The first thing I would note is scheduling, that returning to the office means creating new routines, reintroducing a commute, figuring out a new family schedule, and maybe you've got two partners with two new schedules to coordinate. And at this point, families may have just figured out who does what around the house, who does the pickups and drop-offs, and now with households changing again, that means figuring out new schedules. There's also the challenge, I would say, of uncertainty. There's continued uncertainty around childcare and schooling. I've got two elementary school-age kids, and so I know I'm not the only one who's had kids who had to stay home unexpectedly because of a runny nose, meaning 2 or 3 days at home until a negative COVID test, symptoms resolve, and so that just completely disrupts my plans for work. So that continued uncertainty affects what I'm willing to sign up for with my job, particularly when it comes to anything that's in person or scheduled. And, this is one of the many reasons why COVID has had an outsized impact on women and really continues to do so.
Such great point. And you're right, there is that, the unexpected that can still happen as we're trying to return to some sense of normalcy. So, Dr. Sumpter, then, do you have any tips to help make the transition back to the office a little bit easier?
I sure do, yeah. The first suggestion would be to be really clear about your availability. Because one of the biggest changes we've experienced while working remotely is just being more available. In my research on working mothers during COVID, a lot of them talked about shifting their work hours, waking up early before the kids were awake or staying up later after they went to bed just to salvage some precious minutes of uninterrupted work time. So now, in returning to the office, I think it's important to be very proactive around what you want your work hours to be. And so that means letting others know when you're available versus when you really need to be off the clock, because we all need to have some boundaries around our responsiveness. A second suggestion, I would say, tell others what you need and advocate for what you need for yourself, because other people may not know what you need until you tell them. So that means helping to explain to your manager, your coworkers, your clients, here's what's going on and here's what I need. Maybe it's a more reliable schedule or maybe shifting the timing of a standard morning meeting. Helpful framing that I've used is to say, in order to do my best work, here is what I need. Because flexibility is not one size fits all. So letting others know what type of flexibility you need will help them be able to accommodate you.
Those are some really good tips, and that communication is so important. But let's talk about the business or organizations then, Dr. Sumpter. How can they help facilitate this reentry to the workplace for their employees?
Right, and I appreciate you bringing up that perspective, Cyrus, because, I think companies can't be let off the hook here. It's really important for companies to take responsibility for helping their employees reenter. So I think first I would say it's really important for managers and leaders to keep their finger on the pulse of how reentry is going. So this means taking the time to listen and really paying attention to how your folks are doing. This is not the time for managers to hide away in their offices. They need to be out there, having one-on-ones, conducting pulse check surveys, seeking feedback from their folks. These are some of the ways that managers and leaders can anticipate where there may be problems. And this is especially important because we don't necessarily understand the experiences of people who are different from us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have 2 young kids, and so I couldn't pretend to understand the loneliness and the isolation experienced by single adults during COVID, as much as that might have seemed appealing to me at some times. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I just need a moment alone. We all face different challenges. And so it's really important for managers to ask their employees how things are going so that they can understand how best to support them. And this kind of leads to the second suggestion, which is for managers to really consider employees' holistic needs. Right, the days are gone when you can just focus on what your employee is doing at work. You need to pay attention to their whole life, their whole self. At this point, we have all had a great reckoning with what is really important to us. And this means that employees are just not willing to put up with bosses who ignore their family lives or who discount their well-being. So that means, if someone needs to all of a sudden commute back to the office and that makes their family schedule untenable, guess what? That employee's going to quit, or they're going to downshift in their job or in some way withdraw from their organization. So demonstrate that you care about employees holistically. That means, having support policies, providing structured opportunities for folks to connect with each other, right-sizing performance expectations. Those are some of the ways that leaders can do that. Third suggestion for companies is to really talk up the positives about coming back. None of us like to be forced to do anything, right? No one likes a mandate. And so attract people back to the office. Talk up how valuable it will be to collaborate with colleagues, set up ways to make those interactions happen. So by highlighting the positive aspect of returning, that can help folks feel more at ease with some of the trade-offs they need to make, like commuting or having to dress from head to toe again. So make it worthwhile for them to come back in. And I'll say, the best Mother's Day gift any company could give a working mother is to listen to her needs, consider how to support her as she reenters, and offer the flexibility and control over her job that she really needs these days.
Love that. And these are all great tips, I think, for all of us then, Dr. Sumpter. So are there any resources that employees can seek out to help navigate this return to the office?
Yeah, so I think, during any change or transition, really paying attention to our mental health is so crucial. And so resources like NAMI.org, NAMI.org, it's a great resource for support and information. And don't be afraid to contact your healthcare provider. Second, I'm obviously very biased, but considering a higher degree is always a way to jumpstart or revitalize a career or pivot to a new direction to seek the career you've always wanted. So, getting an MBA, Master's in Management and Leadership, or some higher level degree in your field of choice, those are great avenues towards those goals.
Love it, love it. Again, everyone, Dr. Dana Sumpter has been our guest. Dr. Sumpter is the Associate Professor of Organization Theory and Management at Pepperdine Business School. Sharing with you guys some great tips as you guys are navigating returning to the office, especially when it comes to working moms. Dr. Sumpter, really appreciate this time. Where can our audience go for more general information?
Sure. Well, to find some of the cutting-edge research that I and my great colleagues are doing on managing the return to work or in the future of work, you can find more info at bschool.pepperdine.edu for the Pepperdine Graduate Business School.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we link that up for our audience. Really appreciate you stopping by, Dr. Sumpter, and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thanks so much, Cyrus.
More than welcome, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.